Story 1. The man was both mother and father to his two younger sisters. His former girlfriend accused him of inappropriate behavior for knowing about menstruation and helping his sisters. After hearing both sides, even I would not want anything to do with her. Story 2. The woman discovered her brother-in-law was urinating on her bedroom floor and blaming the cats. It then turned out her in-laws were a group of psychopaths. Story 3. The person described a rotting melon smell for days and called her landlord, but the landlord ignored her. She thought she was going crazy because the smell was getting stronger and she could not identify it. It was her neighbor who had died and was decomposing. Story 4. One of the very first posts I ever read on Reddit asked what you would confess on Reddit but not in real life. The answers were all mundane until the last one, where a man said he accidentally left a rag shoved in a vent while fixing something in his family's investment apartment, which killed a few tenants. I always hoped it was fake but am not certain. Story 5. The mother-in-law who put coconut oil on her granddaughter's hair knowing she was allergic to coconut. Story 6. The story of the man who farts on misbehaving children in public places. I have seen it referred to as the fart of war, quoting one of the respondents. Story 7. A husband and his pregnant wife got into a petty argument. Pregnancy hormones took over, and the wife spent hours meticulously cutting every second stitch out of her husband's clothes. The fight ended, and the wife forgot all about it until her husband called her, panicked at work, saying, "My clothes are broken. I laugh every time." Story 8. I always think about the son who was evil and how the mother one day had enough and beat him severely. Then he disappeared, and they never saw him again. It was from the father's point of view. Story 9. That person who tried heroin just for fun and then ended up becoming a full-blown heroin addict. Story 10. Not sure how true it was, but someone said they saw a large man holding his newborn baby. He tripped, fell forward, and accidentally crushed the baby. Story 11. This post is worthless without links. Worthless, I say. Am I the only one who remembers the Ask Me Anything session with the pedophile, or do we pretend Reddit did not allow that to happen? Story 12. I must have read this about 13 years ago. It was about a man who was gaming with noise-canceling headphones upstairs when his house was broken into. He heard his wife scream, so he stopped gaming, grabbed a gun, and killed the intruder execution style. He went to jail for it. That was terrible. It is still the reason I do not wear noise-canceling earbuds. Story 13. This man drove his girlfriend to say goodbye to a terminally ill friend or former boyfriend. I cannot remember which. During the visit, she had unprotected sex with the friend so his bloodline would live on. It was a terrible day to receive this news. Story 14. The man who broke his arms and possibly his legs had his mother masturbate him for months. Disturbing. Edit. It is worse than initially remembered. He was sexually abusing his mother, and he was 14 when it started. It went on for years, and his father knew. For skeptics, the moderators verified the story for research purposes. The original poster added more information in the comments as it is in the Ask Me Anything subreddit. Story 15. The one where the daughter did a deoxyribonucleic acid test for school and found out she was not her father's child. They had been married for about 30 years, and most of the children were adults. He discovered that 3 of his 5 children were not biologically his. He tried to give his wife time to explain and to work through the situation, but she took her own life. He never received closure or any explanation. It is very sad. Story 16. When the original poster found out that the group chat she had been in with her boyfriend of 2 years and his friends was only him, he pretended to be the other people. Story 17. I'm sure it is mentioned here somewhere, but a while ago there was a post asking people to share their stories of accidental killings. One commenter posted about how they accidentally killed a neighborhood child in a creek. Another user pointed out that this matched up fairly well with a missing child case from decades ago. Story 18. That cheating revenge story is about a man whose wife of more than 30 years was unfaithful. He recorded 3 years' worth of evidence and sent copies to everyone she knew on Christmas. Story 19. I also chose this man's deceased spouse. Diabolical and delightful. Story 20. The story is about parents whose psychotic son tried to murder them. After he cut their baby with a knife, they dealt with him and hid in the basement for weeks while he destroyed the house and disappeared. Story 21. It was posted in Let's Not Meet, so knowing if it is true or not is uncertain, but it is so bizarre that it somehow adds up. Some farm workers on a large property in Australia come across a shipping crate with a diesel generator and air conditioners. Inside are a bunch of computers streaming random numbers, as well as boxes of illegal material. They attempt to contact the police, but it takes a while due to the remoteness. When the police do return, everything inside has been burned, possibly by a device triggered remotely. Story 22. The woman whose plants were slowly dying, even though she took care of them very well, discovered that her husband wanted to hurt her and fed the plants a small amount of bleach every day. I know it is not the most shocking story like the coconut oil or the urine incident or the Jason in Hell one, but it was the meticulous planning and the gaslighting of it all that sent shivers down my spine. It reminded me of one of my former relationships. Story 23. A man said his wife was inappropriate for breastfeeding their baby son, claiming that by doing so she was allowing another man at her breast. I thought it was fake, but people found the evidence that it was real. I could not understand how someone could be so insecure that it ruined a family. Story 24. Not so much a story, but a series of posts that sort of tell a story. The man with schizophrenia who shot off his own genitalia to prevent a nuclear war with North Korea and posted pictures of it. At this point, he is presumed dead based on his sudden stop in activity and suicidal posts. Story 25. For me, it is the story where the man cheated on his girlfriend of 8 years with someone he worked with. The affair partner became pregnant and had the baby. The day after the baby was born, he went to his ex's house for a sentimental reason. The ex sent the affair partner the ring footage with the caption, "I hope he showered and changed clothes before holding your child after he was with me." He was denied access to the affair partner and the child. He says nothing happened and cannot prove that nothing happened. I thought the ex was diabolical. She got the last laugh. Story 26. I cannot remember the details because I read it a long time ago, but the gist was a father dealing with the fact that his son raped his wife, who is also the son's mother. Story 27. This is a 6-part story of a woman who discovered her husband's double life he had been living throughout their marriage. The twists and turns of this story kept me checking Reddit hourly for several weeks. Story 28. The girl found her husband with a reborn baby doll and a condom in the living room when she was leaving for work, after he had insisted so much on having children. Story 29. The story of the children running around the pool at a family barbecue, ready to push their uncle in. Drama for days. Story 30. Please provide links when possible, as not everyone has read every story here. Thank you. Story 31. The Redditor who had schizophrenia and his friends took advantage of his hallucinations by having one of their mutual acquaintances wear a horse head mask around him. Everyone else in the group pretended they did not know what he was talking about. Am I the asshole for not sharing medical history before being pranked? The ragebait story where the guy threw away his girlfriend's culturally relevant artifacts and then embarked on a long saga to track down the garbage retrieval company and retrieve the items. He tried to withhold them to get her to come into the house and talk to him. It devolved into him going insane because of tampering with her sacred belongings, complete with cries of distress. The kid who said the family dog was dead. The Redditor who found the man of her dreams. But her jealous friend shared a really awful story about her abusive ex, hoping to kill her joy. Her new boyfriend, instead of feeling horrified or thinking less of her, confronted the friend harshly for being completely disrespectful. The guy who wanted to sue his ex to force her into taking partial custody of a child he wanted. But she did not. She paid 20% more than what child support required. He just did not want to be a full-time parent. The man who married a black woman and then allowed his mother to cut their daughter's hair because neither he nor his mother wanted to deal with the child's textured hair. The guy who scammed his way into a full-ride student visa scholarship by faking his grades and falsely claiming that his father had died to obtain extra financial aid. Story 32. The Swamps of Dagoba. Nasty. Story 33. The woman who was aroused by the idea of maggots and put rancid, rotting meat in her vagina to feel them squirm. I have to hold on to hope that it was just some sort of disturbing creative writing exercise. Story 34. Diabolical bad. Someone's neighbor was murdered by her abusive husband. She was stabbed to death. Diabolical funny. A man was at a pit stop with his Rottweiler when another person's pet monkey jumped out of their truck holding a cheap, hollow, plastic children's baseball bat. Chaos ensued. Neither was harmed. It was just a lot of chasing and tapping with the bat. This is a very funny story. Story 35. The man who hid one of those annoying beeping toys at work to mess with his colleagues, which led to the explosive ordnance disposal team being called in and his colleague almost getting into a car accident. Story 36. That one woman wanted a specific job, but the top performer of that company was the woman she used to bully in school. She then completely loses control and loses everything in the fallout. Her job opportunity, her boyfriend, and more. Delightful schadenfreude. Story 37. The man who has a strong preference for smelling soiled diapers and would pull them out of his child's diaper disposal system. Story 38. I don't have the link, but the story where the original poster drowns their baby sibling as a young child. The original poster was upset with their sibling over something small, related to a toy or book, and when they were in the bath, the original poster drowned the sibling after their mother left them unattended for a few minutes. The original poster was too young to understand the consequences and ended up deeply traumatized along with the mother. No idea if that story was fabricated. It ruined my day regardless. Story 39. The original poster had two children, a 6-year-old and a baby. They told the 6-year-old not to pick up the baby from the crib. The 6-year-old picked up the baby, dropped it, and the baby died. The mother was grieving and resented the 6-year-old for causing the death of her other child. I hope she is doing better now. Story 40. That video of the 16-year-old who murdered a neighbor and put the head in the freezer, which the mother found, is frightening. The video on Reddit shows the kid's personality doing a complete transformation to a psychotic state when confronted. It is really scary. Story 41. Has nobody mentioned the vacation story yet? One might, a stretch I admit, call it diabolical because of the husband's attempts to manipulate and gaslight her. Story 42. The hospital story with doctors and nurses standing in a river of pus and waste. I cannot remember the name. Story 43. How has no one mentioned the man who was with his girlfriend listening to that absolutely awful song for 2 years? Story 44. An AITA post about a woman who suffered a miscarriage and her sister announced her pregnancy at a family gathering, making a disturbing comment to the original poster. When the original poster took the high road and left the party, the sister had the family send insults via text and social media for ruining the mood. Story 45. A bride destroyed a long friendship because one of the bridesmaids had a condition that caused hair loss. This bride had the most ridiculous demands I have seen in a wedding story. I do not remember exactly what, but if I recall correctly, the former friend posted the story on Am I the Asshole? About taking the bride to court to recover the cost of dresses and other expenses. Story 46. Probably about how a man hooked up with his girlfriend's little sister in a bathroom at a party while his girlfriend was mingling. Story 47. The story of a husband who tortured and abused his wife in a very disturbing way. Not only did he beat her, but he also cut her with scissors and put lime on the wounds to cause more pain and make the wounds worse. He did this in places where the wounds could be covered with clothes. When she could no longer endure the abuse, she went to the hospital. The doctors, upon seeing the scars, were shocked that she was still alive. Thankfully, the abuser was arrested and sent to prison. Story 48. The Costa Rican story. I was working landscaping at the time, and our coworker read it to us during a rainstorm. Story 49. The man who ate his amputated foot or the woman who discovered her boyfriend had been putting slugs in her food. Story 50. Probably on Am I the Asshole? A teenager was dating his childhood best friend. She had learning disabilities and needed lifelong care. He loved her as a friend but wanted to break up and go to university to follow a career. Her parents wanted to pay him to be her boyfriend and full-time carer for life. His own parents were supporting this too. I really hope he got out and followed his own life plan. Story 51. The man who forgot a rag inside the gas vent and the next day discovered that the family living in the house had died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Story 52. The postpartum mom whose partner kept playing pranks on her. Story 53. I am married now, but a long time ago, after an ex-girlfriend cheated on me, I joined the infidelity subreddit. I am still a member and have never left, even after I started dating again and got married. Some of the stories in the subreddit are absolutely evil. Story 54. For me, it's the story about a man who refused to take in his 9-year-old niece while his nurse sister was hospitalized and comatose with COVID-19. The reason was that his niece had once scared, but not harmed, his wife's cat, and his wife decided the child was never allowed back in their house. The rest of the family, including the child's grandparents and other uncles and aunts, were abroad and could not travel due to lockdowns. They desperately begged him to take in the child until they could arrive and take over. However, he still refused, arguing that peace for his wife's cat was more important than keeping the child out of foster care. His own sister was on her deathbed. His niece was completely alone with her father not in the picture and scared of her mother dying. Yet he and his wife remained more concerned with protecting their cat's feelings. Naturally, he was criticized harshly. I have never seen any updates. Story 55. Former gang member and his ex, Marisol. This is a multiple-part story. Read all parts in order. Story 56. I saw a video of a man who pranked an escape room business by locking their front door with chains and a combination lock, then pushing an envelope with the clues through the crack in the door. It makes me laugh every time because of the joy on his face and the anger of the employee. Story 57. How am I not seeing the gonorrhea Jolly Rancher story in these comments? That story forever changed me. It haunts me to this day. Story 58. The man who asked for advice on leaving his wife only for her to murder their children out of spite. Story 59. A veteran shares his story about killing a child while deployed and how it ruined him. Story 60. I have been trying to find a memorable story for years. It was about a man who wanted his wife to defecate in his mouth, and when it finally happened, he regretted everything. Story 61. The one where the wife finds out her husband and her mother were having an affair, and some of her siblings are her husband. I hope someone has a link or maybe not. Story 62. The man had a sexual relationship with his mother during his teenage years, and his father was aware and accepting of it. Story 63. Giada from the Just Know MIL subreddit. They are all deleted now, but that woman was something else, and I am glad the original poster is free of her. Story 64. There was the guy who shaved his pubic hair, the cumbox, the broken arms guy whose mother would perform inappropriate acts, the Jose Canseco Ask Me Anything, and many more. Story 65. There is a no-sleep story that I cannot ever forget. A young child wakes up during the night and is rushing through the hallway. They trip and end up crushing a newborn kitten. My memory is not clear, but that story really upset me because it definitely happened in real life. Story 66. The story is about a couple who left their toddler with the mother-in-law to babysit. Her house had a pool. She went to the house to pick up a phone and left the child unsupervised. The child fell into the pool and drowned. The judge determined it was no one's fault. The mother-in-law then attempted suicide 2 or 3 times. The mother of the child, who is telling the story, hates the mother-in-law and does not want to forgive her. Her marriage is falling apart because the husband wants to forgive her. He is afraid that if he does not forgive her, she will kill herself and he will lose his mother as well. It is a very devastating and tragic story. Story 67. The story of 3 individuals who killed a litter of kittens in front of their mother by running them over multiple times with a red Mustang. The neighbors had to watch. The original poster's girlfriend, who wanted to take in the kittens because the owner, one of the 3 individuals, did not want them, was mentally scarred and had a mental breakdown. Story 68. A story disguised as a cuckold fetish involving a wedding ring being dipped into a condom. I have never been able to get this story out of my mind because of how gross and detailed it was. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.